You know this feeling before you even name it. You walk through the door after a long day, drop your keys somewhere you will forget later, and before your shoes are even off, you are already talking to your pet. Hey, I'm back. You would not believe what today was like. And the strange part is how natural it feels, like the conversation has been running for years, and you are simply returning to it. Maybe you narrate what you are doing while you wash dishes. Maybe you ask your cat why it is sitting in your spot again. Maybe you explain to your dog why you cannot share your food even though both of you know you probably will. It is simple, almost automatic, and it carries a comfort that some human conversations do not. Then, for a split second, a quieter thought slips in. Do other people do this? Is it normal? Why does it feel easier to talk to my pet than to some people? If you have ever tried to describe this bond to someone who does not get it, you know the look you receive, half confused, half amused, as if you are treating an animal like a person. But you already sense the truth. It is not about getting an answer back. It is about how your pet meets you with presence, steady, unguarded, and strangely safe. And that is where the psychology begins. Talking to your pet like this is more common than people admit, and it is usually not a sign that something is wrong with you. It is a sign that your mind is doing what it was built to do, reaching for connection and emotional steadiness wherever it can find it. This is also why it helps to name what this behavior is and what it is not. It is not the same as believing your pet is literally human, and it is not the same as being detached from reality. Most of the time, you know exactly what your pet is and what they are not. The bond feels real because the experience of being received feels real. It is also not automatically a symptom of loneliness in the way people assume. Some people talk to pets because they are isolated, yes, but many do it while having friends, relationships, busy lives, and strong social skills. So we should avoid the simplistic story that only lonely people do this, or that people who do not do this lack empathy. Not everyone who talks to pets is highly empathetic, and not everyone empathetic talks to pets. What matters is the function it serves. For many people, this habit is a small, private form of connection and regulation, a moment where you do not have to perform to feel understood. The first layer underneath this is something psychology has a simple name for: anthropomorphism. It sounds technical, but it is one of the most universal things humans do. When we feel connected to something, especially something consistent, we naturally start assigning it human qualities. We do it with childhood toys, with cars we name, with plants we apologize to when we forget to water them. It is not childish. It is the mind practicing relationship. What makes pets such a powerful trigger is the specific kind of reliability they offer. Their presence is steady. Their responses are emotionally consistent. They do not suddenly change the rules of the interaction or punish you for the wrong tone. And your brain, which is always tracking where safety lives, notices that dependability and starts to treat it like a social bond. In other words, your mind assigns personhood where it finds reliability, not because you are confused about biology, but because you are tuned to connection. This is why the habit often feels automatic. You are not performing a cute routine. You are participating in a relationship your nervous system recognizes as stable. Anthropomorphism, at its core, is not about pretending your pet is human. It is about your brain using the tools of attachment and meaning-making to deepen a bond that already feels real to you. And there is another reason it feels easier than many human conversations. Your pet speaks in a language your nervous system trusts. They do not interrupt you mid-sentence. They do not argue with your feelings, twist your words, or demand that you justify what you are experiencing. Their emotional tone is usually stable, and that stability matters more than people realize. When humans are unpredictable, your body stays on alert. When a pet is consistent, your body softens. What is even more interesting is that your pet does respond, just not through sentences. Animals communicate through tone, posture, micro-movements, and the timing of attention. Your brain picks up those signals automatically. You notice the head tilt, the slow blink, the way they shift closer when your voice gets tired, or the way they pause when your energy changes. You are not waiting for a verbal reply. You are receiving attunement cues, the subtle signs that another being is tracking you and staying with you. This is why presence over explanation becomes the core of the bond. With many people, connection can feel like performance. You have to be quick, coherent, socially smooth. With a pet, you can be messy, quiet, repetitive, even emotional, and the relationship does not punish you for it. Your nervous system reads that as safety. And when safety is present, talking becomes effortless because you are no longer bracing for the consequences of being real. This is where attachment theory helps explain why the bond can feel so emotionally grounding. In simple terms, we attach to what feels safe, available, and responsive. We relax around the presence that stays. And for many people, a pet becomes exactly that. Not because the pet replaces human connection, but because the pet offers a kind of consistency that can be rare in adult social life. Your pet is not evaluating your story for logic. They are registering your state and staying close to it. That steady availability turns them into an emotional anchor. If you grew up around unpredictable emotional cues, even mild ones, shifting moods, inconsistent responses, affection that felt conditional, then your nervous system may have learned to monitor people closely. In that context, a pet's steadiness is not just comforting, it is regulating. Your body does not have to guess what version of the relationship is going to show up today. The rules are simple. Presence is offered. Connection is not negotiated through performance. At the same time, it is important to keep this balanced. Pets can support our attachment needs, but they are not a complete substitute for the complexity of human intimacy. They can be a secure base, but they cannot meet every relational need we have. The deeper point is that the ease you feel with your pet is information. It shows you what safety feels like to your nervous system, and it hints at what you may need more of in your human relationships too. And then there is the mechanism that makes this feel not just comforting, but physically settling. Regulation. When you come home carrying stress, your nervous system is often stuck in a high gear state, tight breath, restless attention, thoughts that keep replaying. Speaking out loud, even in simple everyday sentences, begins to organize that inner noise. Putting feelings into words gives your mind structure. It turns vague tension into something named and therefore manageable. As you talk, your breathing naturally slows, your shoulders drop, and your thoughts line up instead of spiraling. This is emotional regulation in real time. But with a pet, something additional happens. You are not regulating alone. You are co-regulating. Your body is syncing with another living system that is present, responsive, and usually calm. You pet them, they lean in. Your voice softens, they settle. Their steady breathing, their warmth, their unhurried attention becomes a rhythm your nervous system can match. You are not just telling a story, you are recalibrating. And even though your pet cannot answer with language, they do respond to your emotional signature. Animals track tone, cadence, posture, and energy with impressive sensitivity. They move closer when you sound tired. They pause when something in you feels heavy. They become playful when your voice brightens. That feedback loop is what makes it feel real. Different channels, same connection. And for your nervous system, that kind of steady responsiveness is not a small thing. It is a signal that you can finally stop bracing. People who talk to their pets this way often share a quieter trait that rarely gets named correctly. They tend to notice emotional details that others skim past, not in a dramatic, attention-seeking way, but in a high-resolution way. You pick up on shifts in tone, pauses that mean something, the difference between someone being tired and someone being disappointed. In fast social spaces, that sensitivity can feel like overload. Conversation moves quickly, people perform confidence, and your mind is still tracking the undercurrent. So you edit yourself. You choose the safer sentence. You wait for the perfect opening that never quite comes. If you have spent years feeling misunderstood, minimized, or talked over, this pattern deepens. You learn that explaining your inner world is exhausting, especially when the response is to dismiss it or turn it into a debate. Over time, you look for connection that does not require translation. Pets are powerful here because they do not demand proof. They do not ask you to justify why you feel what you feel. They simply stay, and that staying feels like being received. This is not a diagnosis, and it does not mean everyone who talks to pets has the same history. But for many people, the habit reveals something important. Your nervous system is drawn to spaces where emotional depth is allowed to exist without being corrected. What looks like a quirky routine can actually be a search for safe resonance, the kind of connection where you can be fully present without shrinking yourself first. It also makes sense that this bond feels stronger now than it might have in a slower era, because modern social life is built around speed and display. Conversations are quicker, attention is fragmented, and people are rewarded for being immediately relatable, immediately funny, immediately confident. That creates an invisible pressure to respond fast and stay on, even when your nervous system needs a moment to process. In that environment, you start editing yourself before you speak, not because you lack personality, but because the pace leaves little room for nuance. Social media amplifies this even more. It teaches the brain to measure belonging through visibility, through being included in the right photos, having the right energy, matching the vibe instantly. When you do not move at that tempo, difference can start to feel like deficiency. Then home becomes the opposite of that performance. With your pet, there is no algorithm, no status game, no demand to be impressive. There is steadiness. There is a rhythm you can actually live inside. So the loop forms naturally. The outside world costs more energy, and the inside world offers relief. So the bond with your pet deepens, not because you are escaping people, but because you are returning to a kind of connection that does not require you to hurry past your own nervous system. What this habit is really telling you is not just that you love your pet, but that your nervous system has a clear preference for a certain kind of connection. When you talk to an animal and feel understood, you are experiencing what many people are secretly starving for: steadiness, non-judgment, and enough space to be real without being evaluated. So instead of treating this bond as something you should explain away, you can treat it as a blueprint. Your pet is showing you the conditions under which you soften, and those conditions can guide what you build with people. That starts with choosing environments that match your rhythm. Quieter settings often create deeper conversations. One-on-one time often creates more safety than group performance. It also means naming your needs more directly, not as an apology, but as information. I open up slowly. I need a calmer pace. I connect through depth, not constant contact. The right people will not make you defend that. They will meet it. At the same time, the goal is not to use the pet bond as a reason to give up on humans. Your pet can be a secure base, but the lesson is to bring that same energy into your relationships. Less performance, more presence, less proving, more consistency. When you do that, talking to your pet stops being an escape and becomes a reminder. You are capable of closeness, and you already know what safety feels like. So let's return to that quiet scene at the door, keys on the counter, your pet already watching you like you matter. If this feels real to you, it is because it is real at the level that counts. Connection is not just a conversation. It is a nervous system event. Your brain is bonding, regulating, and settling in the presence of something steady, and it is doing it in the most human way possible, through voice, meaning, and relationship. You are not childish for talking to your pet. You are responding to safety. You are practicing presence without performance. And if you pay attention, this habit is not only about them. It is a reflection of what your system has been looking for all along: consistency, warmth, room to be unguarded. Let it remind you that you are capable of closeness, and that you already know what it feels like when connection stops being a test